Chalo. Let's start the human respiratory system as the respiratory system of man. The respiratory system of the man include the following. The respiratory system include, so let's start from their external nostrils. We need to go with first external nostrils.
Ventricular part.
That ఒక్కొక్కటి చూసుకుంటూ వెళ్దాం. Yeah, we know already the sequence. So that's why let's discuss about each and every part and we'll move. We already learned the sequence. So external nostrils or external nares, we can say these are going to be a pair, isn't it? A pair. External nostrils are going to be a pair. So location, where does they get located over? They get located above the upper lip. They get located above the upper lip, isn't it? A pair of nostrils are located above the upper lip. Okay. So where they open, they leads to nasal chamber. They are going to lead to nasal chamber. So this is about the external nostrils, a pair which are present above the upper lip, and then that we are going to open into the nasal chamber. So let's start. Let's go with the nasal chamber. Yes, what are the three portions of the nasal chamber? What are the three portions in the nasal chamber and where it is located?
Vestibular part.
So first of all, above the soft part, above the palate, isn't it? Nasal chamber located above the palate. The first thing you have to remember. And they're separated each other. That are two nostrils. That the nasal chamber is separated by nasal septum. Okay, nasal septum. That means here on the chamber, that means we can see here, these are the two external nostrils, which opens into the nasal chamber. We are talking about this. In between the two nasal chamber, we have a septum. There is a nasal septum which is separating the two portions of the nasal chamber. And each nasal chamber differentiated into, now you can see, each nasal chamber differentiated into number one, vestibular part. What is that? Vestibular part. Immediate opening of the nasal chamber. We can say here vestibular part. The first part of this, that how do we recognize the nasal chamber? That particular chamber which has hair and sebaceous glands. Hair to prevent the entry of dust particles. Sebaceous glands are also in the similar way. That's oil glands we use it to say. They also prevent the entry of dust particles. So vestibular part, hair and sebaceous glands prevent the entry of dust particles. Entry of dust particles are going to be prevented over with the vestibular part, prevents. Okay, so that is the first part. As we said, vestibular part. So in the nasal chamber, who is the second part? Who is the second part?
Respiratory part.
Very good. Nasal chamber include the second respiratory part. Okay. So the respiratory part of nasal chamber. So what is the function of that particular nasal respiratory part? So it is for air conditioning. Whatever the external air, whatever the temperature it will come over, whatever the temperature it will come over, that should be turned into our body temperature, 37 degrees centigrade. So in that way, respiratory part, we can say, helpful for air conditioning. Okay, so it is involved in the conditioning of the temperature of inhaled air. Okay, next, it has three thin, twisted, bony plates. We call them as turbinals or concave. Turbinals or concave. There are three twisted bony plates. We call them as turbinals or concave. Bony plates these are, which are going to protect the respiratory portion. And let us see the third one here. The third one, olfactory portion. olfactory part. Whereas olfactory part is there in the name, olfactory part, lined by olfactory epithelium. Olfactory part is lined by olfactory epithelium, and which we can say here it is for the sense of smell.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, olfactory, it's the name says that it is for sense of smell. Okay. So that let me show you all these portions to you that we already seen. But as of now, this is the human being nostrils, and what is this? Palate. And this is vestibular portion, respiratory portion, olfactory portion. And now we have to say that these are the external nostrils. So external nostrils opens into the nasal chamber, which nasal chamber include three portions. Okay, now where we have to go, that particular nasal chamber leads to the internal nostrils. Nasal chamber opens into the internal nostrils. Okay, now, so let's talk about nasopharynx, where we said about the respiratory portion, which include vestibular, respiratory, and olfactory portion. Now, the nasal chamber leads to nasal chamber opens into, which include three portions like vestibular, respiratory, and olfactory portion. This nasal chamber opens into the oh my God, who is that? Nasopharynx with the help of internal nostrils. Through internal nostrils, nasal chamber opens into the nasopharynx, we can say here. So where it is, where does the nasopharynx located? Nasopharynx located at the soft palate. Nasopharynx is located at soft palate. We can say here the location located at above the soft palate. It is located above the soft palate. We can say here the location of nasopharynx is above the soft palate. Okay. Next, what we can say nasopharynx as it is, nasopharynx is the upper portion of the pharynx. We have three portions in the pharynx. That little bit we are seeing in digestive system. Nasopharynx is the upper portion of the pharynx. We can say it is the upper portion of the pharynx. So this is about nasopharynx, and then nasopharynx opens into larynx. Where it opens? It opens into the larynx. Need to discuss about the larynx here. Hedama, are you writing?
Yes, sir. 1 2.
So last faith, which I'll send. Isn't it? No, I'll send it no matter. Just watch carefully what is running on here. I'll send the whole notes to you, no matter at all. Okay? So, larynx. Discussing about the larynx. Larynx is a cartilaginous box. We can say larynx is a cartilaginous box. We use it to say it as a voice box even.
Voice box.
So that we can say as a voice box or sound box. It is for sound production. That larynx is for sound production, going to produce the sound. That hence we called it as a voice box even, the larynx. Whereas larynx is supported by 9 cartilages. Larynx is supported by 9 cartilages. 9 cartilages are going to support the larynx. Okay, so what are the cartilages here? Number 1, thyroid cartilage. Thyroid cartilage. Okay. Number 2, cricoid cartilage. Thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and as we know, epiglottis is one of them as guarding the glottis, the opening of the larynx. So these three are the unpaired cartilages we can see here. These three are unpaired cartilages. Okay, then we have a list of paired cartilages also. If you take over the paired cartilages, so that means total 9 should come here, the paired cartilages. Let's talk about the paired cartilages. The paired cartilages are the carniculate cartilage, arytenoid cartilage, cuneiform cartilage. So let me write one after another. Carniculate, cuneiform cartilage, and very important one that to be remembered over, that is arytenoid cartilages. Okay, arytenoid cartilages. Okay, so carniculate cartilages are even called as that particular Santorini. Carniculate cartilage is also said to be, all these are cartilages. Let me write cartilage. It is also called cartilage. And Santorini cartilage, also we can say it as Santorini cartilage. So thyroid 1, cricoid 1, epiglottis 1, and then carniculate cartilage 1 pair, then cuneiform 1 pair, arytenoid 1 pair. So how many we said total? 9 cartilaginous plates are present. Okay, 9 cartilaginous plates. In these, let's talk about epiglottis. Epiglottis, which is a very important one that we have to see about this epiglottis. Epiglottis is a thin leaf-like, epiglottis is a thin leaf-like elastic cartilaginous flap. Yeah, it is going to guard opening of trachea, larynx, isn't it? That is called glottis. Glottis is guarded by epiglottis. So what is the function of this?
To prevent the flow of food.
Yeah, prevent the entry of food. It prevents the entry of food through glottis. Then if it comes to the glottis, food enters into the glottis, it might reach over towards the trachea, isn't it? So that's why we can say here it prevents the entry of food into the larynx, through the glottis. So it prevents the entry of food into the larynx through the glottis. Let me write the total. So prevent the entry of food into the larynx through glottis. Okay, it is through glottis. So this is all about epiglottis. Then next, the yellow elastic fibers. We need to see about that yellow elastic fibers which connect the thyroid and arytenoid cartilages, That's all the remaining namesake, but you have to remember these two, thyroid cartilage and arytenoid cartilage. The connecting the thyroid and arytenoid cartilages, we will find the fibroelastic strands, which are, we can say, made of yellow elastic fibers. That fibroelastic strands, we call them as vocal cords. So between the thyroid and arytenoid cartilages, what are present? Vocal cords. Okay, so these are the vocal cords. A pair of vocal cords are present. A pair of vocal cords. Okay, so vocal cords are present between, that we have to remember. That vocal cords are present between thyroid cartilage and arytenoid cartilages. Okay, so then in between the thyroid and arytenoid cartilages, and one more thing, between the vocal cords, there is some space. Between the vocal cords, there is a space. The space between the two vocal cords is called as rama glottidis. the space between the two vocal cords is said to be rima glottidis. We call it as rima glottidis. Okay. So this is a very important thing you have to remember. I'll show you every cartilage even now for you. I'll show you every cartilage. But till the time, just let us take some information. Okay. So the middle part of the thyroid cartilage forms the laryngeal prominence. Middle part of the thyroid cartilage forms the laryngeal prominence. We call it as laryngeal prominence. We say it as Adam's apple. The laryngeal prominence, the middle part of the thyroid cartilage is forms. I'll show you that. Just let me describe each and everything, and then after I'll show you the mid-ventral. Sorry. Exact location. Let us write exact location. The mid-ventral part. The mid-ventral part of the thyroid cartilage. The mid-ventral part of the thyroid cartilage forms the laryngeal prominence. What do we say? Adam's apple. Okay. Next, about that, what do you say? Simply, this is enough for us to understand the cartilages. As let me remind you once again: thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, arytenoid cartilage, Santorini cartilages we said, but I asked you to remember only two cartilages finally, that is thyroid and arytenoid, because in between them, in between the thyroid and arytenoid cartilages, that there is the vocal cords are going to be present here. And about talking about the vocal cords, if you just want to know about the vocal cords in case of male, is there any difference in case of male and female with about vocal cords? Yes. Low pitch voice will come in male or female?
Female.
Yeah, expected. That's why I asked it. In case of male, vocal cords are thicker, longer, and produce low pitch voice. Okay, and produce low pitch voice. Okay, then I think you get shocked over. Then, where in women as well as in children also, in case of children also, in case of women and children, the vocal cords are going to be usually short and produce high pitch voice. Okay, the voice which we are getting here, you have to redefine yourself here. The voice of men is low pitch voice. You have to understand in that particular manner. Okay, so the voice which is coming from the male, that whatever we are hearing, that particular voice, that you have to understand that is high pitch voice is in female, then low pitch voice is in case of male. So you have to remember whatever the voices sounds are coming, that you have to remember in that particular manner. Okay, so let's close this with a little more information about vocal cords. Not only larynx contain two types of vocal cords. In case of larynx, as we said, two that vocal cords are present. That particular vocal cords present in the larynx are going to be that a pair of vocal cords we said. But if you see little depth, you can find two types of vocal cords. Two types of vocal cords. One type we can say false vocal cords. It seems to be like, but they are not vocal cords. Another type we already discussed, true vocal cords, false vocal cords. So what they are? What they are along with the true vocal cords, which we are discussing now about the true vocal cords. Then what are false vocal cords? False vocal cords are said to be the folds of the mucous membrane. False vocal cords are said to be the folds of the mucous membrane. Just they look alike, but they are not. They are not vocal cords. So the elastic fiber or fibroelastic strands, which is there between the thyroid and arytenoid, we only say they are going to be true vocal cords, which they are going to make the noise. Sound is coming from there. Okay, so that here, let me write here. There is no sound production here. In the false vocal cords, no sound production. Then where sound production is coming, there that only we can say true vocal cords. Sound production is possible here. Okay, so these are said to be true vocal cords. Let me show you. Just give me a minute. I will come with these particular vocal cords. I will show you these particular vocal cords for you. That whatever we learn, thyroid, cricoid, arytenoid, Santorini, cartilaginous plates, whatever we learned here. So all that particular vocal cords, I will show you in one place. Just give me a minute. I will come and I'll show you. Yeah. Just confirm whether you are getting this on the screen or not. Yeah. Yeah, I'll go for it. Then first of all, you see the Adam's apple. What we said about that particular thyroid cartilage, mid-ventral. What we said about the thyroid cartilage, particularly that thyroid cartilage, the mid-ventral part of the thyroid cartilage forms the laryngeal prominence. We call Adam's apple. So why we called it as that, you can understand easily that in the shape wise it look alike, isn't it? Adam's apple. Let me draw here. This is Adam's apple. Okay. So this is the thyroid cartilage. It is the largest cartilage. You can see thyroid cartilage on one view, and other view you can see here like this. You see here. This is also the thyroid cartilage. Okay. Okay. So what is that view? What is that view that we have to go for? That what is the view? That anterior view. So you see here anterior view, posterior view. This is going to make some confusion in case of intermediate level, that in next year onwards, you people will learn like this. Just let me show you. These are eyes, nose, and ears. The full view, this particular view, this which we call it as ventral view, isn't it? Yeah. When we see the back side of the person, dorsally vertebral column present, likewise. Okay, so what do you call this view when we see outside? Dorsal. But in case of human being, language is different. We call this as an anterior view. So this particular whole portion, anterior view, this portion, posterior view. So that we are going to get that in MBBS actually in the coming days. But that's why for your comfort, I am writing here. This is ventral view. Ventral view. Okay. So thyroid cartilage, that it will look like this. Okay. Then dorsal view, posterior view, according to him, is a dorsal view. Okay. So thyroid is the largest cartilage, and you can see arytenoid cartilages here. You can see the two arytenoid cartilages. So that means here, when you see them in laterally, you can understand this is thyroid and this is arytenoid. In between them, vocal cords are present. Space between the vocal cords we call rima glottis. Okay. And we said thyroid cartilage is unpaired cartilage, isn't it? Thyroid is unpaired. Who is that? One more unpaired cartilage we are seeing. Who is that? And one more unpaired cartilage you see here. This cricoid cartilage. Cricoid, yeah. Cricoid cartilage and epiglottis. This is epiglottis. You can see in ventral view like this, dorsal view, you can see the full. Okay. And this is cricoid cartilage. Okay. So if I that will redraw this, it will come like this. This is cricoid. Let me change the color. And this is trachea with our C-shaped cartilaginous structure, cricoid. On above the cricoid, you can see the thyroid. That you have to understand. Okay. on above the thyroid, the cricoid. Cricoid is a ring-like cartilage. You can see any side that cricoid is full, isn't it? So it is a ring-like cartilage, cricoid. Above on the cricoid, thyroid present. In front of the thyroid, a pair of arytenoid. Between the thyroid and arytenoid, two vocal cords are present. Not much necessary here, but just that whatever the cartilages we are seeing for formality, then at least that we need to visualize. So this is thyroid, and this is epiglottis, and this is cricoid. These three are unpaired cartilages. These three are said to be unpaired. And now let's go with the paired cartilages. A pair of arytenoid cartilages are present, a pair of arytenoid, and you can see the carniculate and cuneiform. They are the tip of arytenoid. This is arytenoid. Then at the tips of arytenoid, carniculate and cuneiform. That much considerable cartilages we can see there. So totally 9 cartilages are present. Okay, finally larynx leads to larynx opens into. We discussed about all the tissues of the larynx. Then larynx opens into. Yeah, that means what is our next one? Trachea. Number 5 is trachea. Okay, so let's talk about the trachea. Okay, so what we discussed about the trachea, what are the features of the trachea? Trachea is said to be a windpipe. Trachea we can call, it's a windpipe which is protected by C-shaped rings which are made up of hyaline cartilage. Yeah, so let us write one after another the particular points which are related and issued towards one. Okay. So first, what we said, trachea is a windpipe. Trachea is a windpipe. Windpipe, we can say windpipe, a straight tube extending up to the mid-thoracic cavity. So that till what till where it extends over, extending up to the mid-thoracic cavity. The trachea is getting extended over till the mid-thoracic cavity. A straight tube which extends up to the mid-thoracic cavity. Okay. So what next? Then trachea, how it is get protected over? The wall of trachea is supported by C-shaped cartilaginous structures that I have shown now. The C-shaped cartilaginous structures. So C-shaped rings of which are made up of hyaline cartilage. We can see here they are made up of hyaline cartilage. Okay. The wall of trachea is supported by C-shaped rings which are made up of hyaline cartilage. Okay. Then that need to remember they are C-shaped. They are not complete. Incomplete rings. So where they are incomplete rings. That incomplete rings, dorsally incomplete ring. Actually, you could not use the word ring, but in text they are used over. Incomplete dorsally. They are incomplete dorsally, and they keep the trachea always open. Protection wise, we can say here, always open, preventing the collapse of trachea when the air is not there. Okay, so preventing the collapse of the trachea. And the trachea is lined by pseudostratified ciliated epithelium, which is used to prevent the entry of dust particle. Trachea is lined by pseudostratified ciliated epithelium. Okay, pseudostratified ciliated epithelium. So these are all about, let me show you trachea, dorsally incomplete, incomplete issue of the trachea. You might have seen this particular. Yes, just here you can see this. This is anterior view. Ventrally it is complete. You can see here dorsally it is incomplete. Trachea, C-shaped structures of the trachea, which prevent the collapse of trachea. So that they are C-shaped. Have you noticed this? Dorsally complete, the ventrally complete, the complete, and dorsally they are incomplete. This is the dorsal side. You have to understand. Okay. Sure. Next, trachea. So let me show you the trachea here also by drawing a small diagram that we know there is a larynx which is guarded by epiglottis. The opening of the larynx we call epiglottis. Then after it opens into the trachea, and trachea protected by C-shaped cartilaginous structure, whereas trachea is branched into, this is trachea, okay, and this is larynx. Okay, so trachea further branched into primary bronchi. Trachea get branched into primary bronchi. So that is going to be our next heading, that bronchi and bronchioles. That we have to talk about the bronchi and bronchioles. Bronchi and bronchioles. Let's discuss, let's talk about bronchi and bronchioles. Okay. So the bronchi and bronchioles, which are said to be the branches of trachea, which is a continuation of the trachea, the bronchi and bronchioles. Let's start the discussion about the bronchi and bronchioles. So that on entering into the mid-thoracic cavity, mid-thoracic cavity, on entering the mid-thoracic cavity, trachea divides. Now we should say the trachea division is going to happen. Trachea divides at the level of address. We are giving exact address at the level of the fifth thoracic vertebrae. At the level of the fifth thoracic vertebrae. So here you need to understand vertebral column is having some categorization. So let it complete. Then after I'll go for what is fifth thoracic vertebrae. Into fifth thoracic vertebrae, it is divided into right and left primary bronchi. That right and left primary bronchi. They get divided here into right and left primary bronchi. So the story starts. Each primary bronchus, here each primary bronchus, yes, further it divide into
Secondary.
Yeah, each primary bronchus enters the corresponding lung and divides into secondary bronchi. Each primary bronchus enters into the corresponding lung. That means right if it is, it goes into the right lung, left it is, it goes to the left lung. Each primary bronchus enters into the corresponding lung, then and divides, here it divides into secondary bronchi. It gets divided into secondary bronchi. Okay, so now primary bronchi, then secondary bronchi, then what next?
Tertiary bronchi.
Yeah, tertiary bronchi. Okay, so that we have to say here. Each secondary bronchi further divides into tertiary bronchi. So primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi. Then what next?
Tertiary bronchi.
Tertiary bronchiole.
Primary bronchi.
Yeah, tertiary bronchi divides into
Primary bronchioles.
primary bronchiole. Tertiary bronchi divides into bronchioles. Now the new series begins. The primary, secondary, tertiary bronchi. Then each tertiary bronchus, bronchi plural, bronchus singular. Each tertiary bronchus divides and redivides. That will say in one line, divides and redivides as divides and redivides as. Divides and redivides as.
Primary, secondary, tertiary, bronchiole.
Yeah, primary bronchiole. Need to say here, primary bronchiole, secondary bronchiole,
And tertiary.
primary, secondary, tertiary bronchioles. We have to say tertiary bronchioles and
Terminal bronchiole.
primary bronchiole, secondary bronchiole, tertiary bronchiole, terminal bronchiole, terminal bronchiole, then respiratory bronchiole. Then what is the last duct here?
Alveolar duct.
Yeah, respiratory bronchioles and then alveolar duct, the last duct of trachea, branches of trachea. What is that? Alveolar duct. Okay, so this is the total story. Primary, secondary, tertiary bronchi, primary, secondary, tertiary, terminal respiratory bronchioles, and that opens into the alveolar duct. Which alveolar ducts are going to open into the alveolar sacs? We can say alveolar sacs. So the bronchi and initial bronchioles are actually supported by cartilaginous rings. That after that you don't find this particular cartilaginous rings. Let's go for the next. Yeah, or else here we'll write here that information about the cartilaginous rings will make. Wait a minute. So we'll write here that particular information. What we said, the bronchi and initial bronchioles are supported by cartilaginous rings. So bronchi and initial bronchioles. We know already that the cartilaginous rings are present for trachea. So about bronchi and bronchioles, bronchi and initial bronchioles are supported by cartilaginous rings. That we have to know. Because after that, the branches are going to be very minute, that we can't accommodate that particular ring. So that's why up to initial level. Okay. And these kind of structure like trachea divides into primary, secondary, tertiary bronchi, and that they divide into primary, secondary, tertiary bronchiole, terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct. How does it seems to be? How does it seems to be? The total issue can be seen in the form of pulmonary tree. It's like a tree, isn't it? Reversing branch of tree, we can say here. It look like the pulmonary tree. Okay. So, but in reverse condition, upside down, we can say pulmonary tree. These branches look alike the pulmonary tree. Okay. So just watch about the tree. That's it. This is about the pulmonary tree, and I think we missed one E. Okay, so that's it about. And at last in the series, we need to go with the lungs. We get started from external nostrils. Then after we are seeing the nasal chamber, which opens into the nasopharynx, then laryngopharynx, and then you just seen about the larynx, then after trachea, and finally we are going with the lungs. So what about the lungs? How many pairs of lungs are present? That simply we say here lungs are one pair of lungs are present. One pair we can say. So where do they locate it over? The lungs occupy, Yeah, they are present. Thoracic cavity occupy the greater part of the thoracic cavity. We can say here. Lungs occupy greater part of the thoracic cavity. We can say here, greater part of the thoracic cavity. Who is another one who is going to stay along with the lungs in the same house in thoracic cavity? Hmm. Heart should be there. Lungs are there, and next is going to be heart. That particular lungs leave a space. The space which left by the lungs is called mediastinum cavity. That we'll discuss in the next chapter, body fluid circulation. Where the space is there, mediastinum cavity, in that that heart is going to be located over. Okay. Next, lungs are covered by two layers. A double layered pleura. Lungs are with a double layered pleura. We can say pleura. Okay, the pleura. Then with pleural fluid in between them. Double layered, when we say, we should name it or not. Let us name it. What are the two names? Pleural parietal peritoneum, we can say. Pleural parietal peritoneum. Double layered, outer layer is pleural parietal peritoneum. Inner layer is pleural visceral peritoneum. In between the pleural parietal peritoneum and pleural visceral peritoneum, there is a space, isn't it? And the space is filled by pleural fluid. The space is filled with pleural fluid. Okay, so the space is filled with pleural fluid. Okay, let me write pleural fluid in simple way. Pleural fluid. Well, there is a huge importance. We are going to discuss it now. So this is one of the another information about the lungs. Lungs are double layered, we said. Then outer pleural parietal peritoneum, inner pleural visceral peritoneum. In between them, the space is present. We call it as pleural fluid. Okay. Then what is the function of pleural fluid? Pleural fluid is going to reduce the friction. Actually, the pleural fluid is going to reduce the friction on the lung surface. So let me write pleural fluid function here. It reduce, okay, I should need that we have a space here. Pleural fluid reduce friction on the lung surface, reduce the friction on the lung surface, which is there between the pleural parietal peritoneum and pleural visceral peritoneum. That is going to reduce the friction on the lung surface. Lung surface, we missed out surface. Okay, so next, the outer pleural membrane, pleural parietal peritoneum, inner pleural parietal peritoneum. There is a huge importance for this. Let me, so because it was related to the pleural parietal. I am writing full here. Pleural parietal peritoneum. Outer, what we said, pleural parietal peritoneum.
Correct.
Inner,
Pleural visceral.
yeah, pleural visceral peritoneum. Okay, it is having some involvement in the mechanism of respiration even. That's why that watch carefully. The outer pleural parietal peritoneum is in close contact with outer pleural parietal peritoneum is in close contact with inner lining of the thoracic cavity. We can say here it is having close contact with inner lining of thoracic. Simply we'll write right here thoracic lining. It is a bigger word to describe the thoracic lining. Thoracic lining means dorsally vertebral column. If you see here, thoracic cavity is having dorsally there is vertebral column. Ventrally, sternum is present. I'll show you everything. I'll show you. Let me write first. Ventrally sternum, laterally ribs. Okay, so that means thoracic cavity borders I am writing here. Then what I am saying here, this particular our said so-called outer parietal peritoneum is having a close contact with, it is having the close contact with inner lining of thoracic cavity, inner lining of thoracic cavity. So that's what we are saying. And this is very, very important. So that for that only I said over dorsally vertebral column present and ventrally it has, let me close this box. Yeah. Now, inner pleural visceral peritoneum, outer, as we said about outer one, whereas inner pleural peritoneum is close contact with, it is having the close contact with, is having close contact with, as contact with lung surface. So this is going to be much helpful for us for breathing. So that's why to remember this, let me make this also a box. So outer parietal peritoneum, inner pleural visceral peritoneum. What is present in between? What do you say?
Pleural.
Yeah, in between them, what we call the pleural fluid is present. In between them, we are just talking about that particular pleural fluid. Okay, so pleural fluid is present. Okay, so what is the importance and how does that particular vertebral column, sternum, ribs are arranged? We'll see, we'll continue in that breathing mechanism, we'll show you. Then the part staying with external nostrils up to the terminal bronchioles, we can say conducting portion. So to know about the lungs, to know the difference between the previous things we learned till the here and that now learning thing. So we can say, first of all, let me show you, let me say about the conducting portion. What is conducting portion? Conducting portion means conducting part. We get started from external nostrils, the story, isn't it? So external nostrils, from the external nostrils to, which the part which is started from the external nostrils to, till the terminal bronchiole, till the end of that, all the branches from external nostrils to that terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, alveolar ducts, everything are going to be a conducting portion. Okay. Next, respiratory or exchange portion we need to talk about. The second one, respiratory or exchange, where the gaseous exchange is going to happen. That part, respiratory part or exchange portion. Exchange of what here? Gases. Exchange of gases. Respiratory or exchange part. Which one? Respiratory or exchange part. Who is the last branch here? Who is the last branch?
Alveolar.
Yeah, alveolar duct. So where does exchange is going to happen? Alveolar duct and alveoli, where that exchange is going to happen, between gaseous exchange is going to happen. So till that particular place, we can say already is conducting portion. Just they are conducting the gas, that's all. But where does the actual gas exchange is going on? Actual site of gaseous exchange is alveolar duct and alveoli. Who is alveoli?
The site of exchange of gases.
Smallest portion of the lung. Who is alveolar duct?
That's
Last
Yeah, last branch of trachea.
trachea.
Yeah, last branch of trachea. So simply what we are saying, gaseous exchange, that giving oxygen, taking carbon dioxide, whatever it may be, transaction is going on this particular area, alveolar duct and alveoli, we can say actual sites of gaseous exchange. Okay, so conducting portion, what it will do, it transport the atmospheric air up to the alveoli, up to that alveolar duct, where in the main period of time, the function of that particular is eliminating the foreign particles, conducting portion, remove the foreign particle if any dust particles are there. It humidification, that we said it as respiratory part is act as air conditioner. So likewise, bringing that particular air into our body temperature, all that activities are going to be for the conducting part. Okay, exchange part. What exchange part doing? Actual site of the diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the blood and atmospheric air. Okay, next. So, discussing about the lung here, let me go more other issues about the lung. The lung. The lungs are situated. The lungs are situated in the thoracic chamber. The lungs are situated in the thoracic chamber, which is anatomically an airtight chamber. It is anatomically is an airtight chamber. So this is also very important, which will helpful for us to understand the breathing mechanism. Okay, breathing mechanism. And as I said to you earlier, now I am saying again that lung at lung dorsally. Yes, now you see lung at dorsal side. Who is there at for the lung at dorsal side?
Vertebral column.
Yeah, very good. Lung at ventral side.
Sternum.
Sternum.
Very good.
Sternum.
Lung at ventral side. I'll show you after this, but should say lung lateral sides, border of lungs at lateral side.
Ribs.
Yes, lateral sides, ribs. So completely packed one here. The lung dorsally, vertebral column is present. Then ventral sternum. There is a bone called sternum in the mid-thoracic cavity, and lateral sides, ribs are present. Lateral side, ribs are present. As we said it over, it's an airtight chamber. Okay. Then the posterior side, lung at posterior side, which is very, very important. Lung at posterior side is dome-shaped diaphragm. What is present? A dome-shaped diaphragm. Lung at posterior side will have a dome-shaped diaphragm. Dome-shaped diaphragm is present, which this diaphragm is going to play a vital role in this particular process of respiration. Mechanism of respiration, that dome-shaped diaphragm. And let me write muscles even here. The muscles of diaphragm, which is regulating the movements of the diaphragm, are called radial muscles. Radial muscles, which are also called phrenic muscles. Do remember these muscles, which will come in the coming days. That radial muscles are phrenic muscles. So these anatomical setup of lungs in thorax, in such that in a change in the volume of the thoracic cavity will be reflected in the lung cavity. So why this much tight pack here? The lung capacity, that lung volume change, that thoracic cavity, volume of the thoracic cavity, that should reflect on the volume of the lung. So that's why we said airtight, situated in the thoracic chamber. That we'll discuss too. That means here, all these ingredients they are gathering to understand the mechanism of breathing. We'll discuss there. So this kind of arrangement is definitely is going to be helpful for breathing process. So let me write that particular anatomical arrangement. Then after we'll move forward with that only breathing process here. Before that, I have to show you vertebral column, sternum, ribs, all that I have to show here. So these anatomical setup, which we are talking about till the time, this anatomical setup for what here? The anatomical setup of lungs is in the thoracic region, Why this much? To the dorsal, ventral, lateral, posterior. Why this much? Because is such that any change in the volume, any change in the volume of thoracic cavity, any change in the volume of thoracic cavity will be reflected. That means here outer pleural parietal peritoneum, we said they attach to the vertebral column, they attach to the sternum, they attach to the ribs, and they attach to the dome-shaped diaphragm. So if any changes happen there, automatically that reflection will find over in the lung cavity also, will be reflected in the lung cavity, will be reflected in the lung cavity. That you have to remember. So that means your lung cavity, which means pulmonary volume, which we are talking about, pulmonary volume. Okay. Such an arrangement we can say here, which is very essential for breathing. This kind of arrangement is very essential for breathing. Okay, so that let me write that also. Such an arrangement is very much essential for breathing. As generally pulmonary volume cannot be altered directly, as the pulmonary volume cannot be altered. That I'll show you a small video there, you can understand easily tomorrow. Cannot be altered directly. So that means that's why we are making alteration of the surrounding, which these particular these things are means the dorsal vertebral column, ventral sternum. If at least when you move the sternum and ribs, that moves the outer pleural parietal peritoneum, that moves the lungs. In that way, you have to understand over. Okay. So this is about the total story of these. Let me show you. Just give me a 30 second. I will show you that rib cage. Wait a minute. I'll show you the rib cage. So here it is going to be very important for us to be noted down that dorsal vertebral column, ventral, dorsal. Yes, dorsal side, who is present?
Vertebral column.
Yeah, dorsal side, vertebral column, ventral side, sternum, ventral sternum, posterior side.
Dome-shaped diaphragm.
Yeah, posterior side, diaphragm. Very good. Posterior side, diaphragm. So the muscles of the diaphragm are called as?
Radial muscles.
Muscles of the diaphragm are said to be radial muscles. Okay.
Or phrenic muscles.
Phrenic muscles. Muscles of the diaphragm we call radial muscles or phrenic muscles. Requesting the same student not to do make noise. Wait a minute. I am showing. I want to show that particular lining. Do we have that lining here?